Welcome to Numbers Never Lie. Alongside the great Jemele Hill, I'm the above-average Michael Smith. Some might call us the king and queen around here. Coming up, John Elway checking the media's criticism of Peyton Manning, Richard Sherman refusing to be a pawn in your game, and why some people still don't realize that Bill Belichick is playing chess, not checkers, like Alonzo.
But our number one topic today is Kevin Durant gunning for the king tonight, and you know what? King? You best not miss. All right, the number in the news for Kevin Durant is 3-13. That's KD's all-time record in head-to-head meetings against LeBron James. But tonight at 7 on ESPN, Durant travels to Miami as perhaps the hottest player in the NBA, having gone for over 30 in 11 straight games. Even LeBron admits that KD is playing on a different level right now.
I mean, individually, it can't be stopped by any one-on-one player. There's nobody that can guard him one-on-one. It's going to be a team thing. I'm going to be matched up against them, but I have to have ears and eyes behind me to help me and know where my help is coming from.
Foster care at the age of 12, and I lived in
against the defending champions. No Russell Westbrook. Mike, tonight is a statement game for the Slim Reaper.
First of all, you are calling him Slim Reaper?
I do. I like that better.
That. He likes KD.
I know, but KD is just an initials. It's not a nickname.
Respect this man.
Okay. I do.
Mama named him Clay. I'm going to call him Clay.
Okay.
He's KD. I'm calling him KD.
Okay.
But to answer your question, this is not a statement game for Kevin Durant because one game will not make a statement that will define the story of what could be an historic season for Kevin Durant. I get an email this morning from our stats and information group telling me that Kevin Durant is having one of the 10 best seasons in NBA history. His player efficiency rating is 31.1. The only players to register a PER higher than that over a single season were Michael Jordan, Wilt Chamberlain, and LeBron James. He's in striking distance of the all-time record of Wilt Chamberlain of 31.8 and 62-63. So one game tonight against the reigning MVP will not determine whether Kevin Durant deserves to be the MVP. We've all agreed that he's the MVP to this point because of his overall body of work.
Yes, but here's the thing. LeBron is the reigning MVP, and as you mentioned, the Heat are the reigning champions of the NBA. The standard is the standard. You measure yourself against the best. That's how it works. As great as those stats were, everybody's going to look at how Kevin Durant performed against Miami because they are the standard. And tonight, considering that head-to-head record, he has an opportunity to put, shall I say, a major, he's already made a case. Now he has a chance to further stamp his case for MVP because people, trust me, as much as people always like to bring up the fact that LeBron has the rings, and I get that, the MVP is a regular season award. You do take a body of work, but you look at the significant games. So to beat Miami in Miami without Russell Westbrook would be a hell of a statement.
So you're going with, if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
That's how it always works.
I had the late pass on this. A couple of weeks ago, I'm sitting there trying to argue with you.
So you're trying to blame us because you're late?
No, I'm simply saying he's been the MVP to this point, and mainly because of January, 36.9 points, 6.2 rebounds, 6.1 assists on 54% shooting this month. If LeBron were to outplay him tonight, or to win the game tonight, that doesn't mean that Kevin Durant hasn't been doing work without Russell Westbrook. That's why he's the MVP, not because of what he does in one game tonight. I know it's a big game, but let's not make it more than it really is.
No, I think it's fine to make it more than it really is because most athletes, particularly like LeBron and Kevin Durant, who came in basically in the same generation, they're judged against each other. That's the way it works.
I got it.
Everybody that was in the Michael Jordan era was judged against him. Everybody
in the finals or when it came to championships, not in January.
Even in the regular season, Karl Malone, same thing. Barkley, everybody was looking for pieces of evidence.
Okay.
If it's a regular season award, then you have to count the major games, and this is today. Would you at least agree it's the biggest game, possibly the second biggest game of the NBA season?
The biggest piece of evidence on this show is what?
It's the number.
Let's get to it.
That might be the only thing I get right today. Who knows?
Let's do it.
Who knows?
I'm excited for the game too. So tomorrow, if the Heat win, so you're gonna argue that LeBron's the best player in the league again, right?
It depends on how it happens.
Okay. One game. I got you.
Okay, you say it's not a statement game. I say it is.
He's been talking the talk and walking the walk.
Is this an MVP statement game for Durant tonight? The numbers say yes. If you want to knock LeBron off his MVP throne, you have to beat him head to head. Derrick Rose is the only player besides LeBron to win MVP in the last 5 years. And in that season, talk about making a case, his Bulls went 3-0 against the Heat with Rose averaging 29 in those games.
All right, hey, we got more on LeBron and Durant coming up. But first, tell us what you think. Is tonight's game more important for Kevin Durant or LeBron James? Reply on Twitter with your choice to the hashtag MVP Showdown. Meanwhile, on to the Super Bowl. The number in the news for Peyton Manning is 88.9. That's his total QBR this postseason, higher than in either of his 2 previous playoff runs to the Super Bowl. From the start of this postseason and continuing through the build-up to Sunday's big game, the big topic of conversation has been Manning's place in NFL history. Peyton had a message yesterday for us talking heads.
I've been being asked about my legacy since I was about 25 years old, which I'm not sure you can have a legacy when you're 25 years old or even 37. I thought you had to be like 70 to have a legacy. So I'm not 100% sure what the word even means.
Well played, Peyton. Meanwhile, his boss, John Elway, said, quote, because he had such a tremendous year, I mean, what else are you going to talk about Peyton Manning that's negative other than, okay, we've got to go to his legacy? Not quite that simple, John, but I'll save that for a moment from now. Jemele, you start this. Does Elway have a point here? Is all the focus on his legacy unfair to Peyton Manning?
No, I don't think it's unfair, and I see what John Elway is doing. In many ways, Peyton Manning is like his twin of this generation. Certainly because of Joe Montana, much like Peyton Manning with Tom Brady. John Elway, there were a lot of questions about his legacy, about how good of a quarterback he was because Joe Montana was blasting him in the Super Bowl.
Well, just once. But
well, just once. But still, he was a quarterback considered for a long period of time of that particular era. Mm-hmm. And so he's probably thinking about how he was questioned, and maybe he didn't feel like it was totally fair. And I think he's channeling that, as well as obviously sticking up for his guy. Now, the reason why this is totally fair is because of Peyton's postseason failures might be too strong, but let's just say that he's come up a little bit short. His 2 previous Super Bowls, we know what happened. I mean, he won one, but that year he had 3 picks.
He had 7 picks. Total QBR.
Right, he had 7 picks, 3 touchdowns. And even in the Super Bowl game, he had 1 touchdown and 1 interception. The year that they lost to the Saints, the 74-yard interception return basically sealed the game for New Orleans. So we're waiting on this particular stage. Against the number 1 defense in the NFL, the degree of difficulty, if Peyton wins this kind of game, it's going to leave a lasting impression.
Here's why the legacy talk is fair, and here's why it's unfair of John Elway to act like we're coming out of nowhere with this, like we're making up those postseason shortcomings you just talked about. First of all, Peyton Manning has set such a high standard in the regular season that the way he plays in the postseason, just like the numbers, our eyes don't lie. We have seen him not look like himself far too often in the postseason. So much so that I also watched John Elway on SportsCenter yesterday with Hannah Storm and Mark Schlereth, and he said, John Elway said this, that before the playoffs, he talked to Peyton Manning privately and said, just relax and just be Peyton Manning.
So
why would you have to tell somebody that if there was no concern about his postseason performance? Not to mention the fact that Peyton Manning is the one that introduced the idea of the light being at the end of the proverbial tunnel, about this perhaps being the end for him. As every great quarterback knows, these opportunities are not guaranteed. So, of course, we're going to talk about his legacy because this just in. He's 37 years old. His career is almost over. Even
he acknowledged that. And my other issue, somewhat with John Elway, is you put together this team of offensive weapons and you made it this complete for a reason. Don't get mad at us because we're holding you to the expectation that you wanted,
exactly.
that you sought. Yeah. You didn't go out there and get Peyton Manning to win division titles. Mm-hmm. You went and you locked him up to get Super Bowls.
As we get to the numbers, just like Peyton and both John had talked about this week, it was Elway who went into the locker room in the preseason and said, we're about winning the championship here.
There it is.
When you're on Peyton Manning's level, that's what it's a compliment. We're talking about his place in history with the Elways and Montana.
Expectations should never be
This is not a negative. Don't try to flip the script on us. Is it unfair to Peyton to focus on his legacy? So you selling out, Will? The numbers say yes. Going with Elway here, huh? Peyton Manning is on the verge of capping off perhaps the greatest single season of all time by a quarterback. He could become the first QB to win an NFL title in the same season as setting records for passing yards and touchdowns since Sid Luckman did it for the Bears in 1943. What you saying? Stay in a moment?
Yeah. What Tom Brady from 2007, what do people say? 18-1. Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, speaking of Tom Brady, the number in the news for him and Bill Belichick is 8-8. Brady and Belichick are 8-8 in their last 16 postseason games after winning their first 10 playoff games. According to a report, the Patriots tried to better their recent postseason mediocrity by putting out feelers for last season to see if they could get Larry Fitzgerald. Why are you laughing? And I'm sure he cried a single Denzel glory tear when he read that report. Although the Patriots run ended with the AFC title loss to the Broncos, former Chicago Bears GM Jerry Angelo believes the Patriots' exit was the result of a faulty plan. Here's what he said on Twitter: Brady is an elite quarterback, and they handcuffed him with talented but unproven receivers, except for Julian Edelman, who is a gritty poor man's Wes Welker. None of his other receivers had much of any playing time. Their offense was devoid of the most critical parts needed for their quarterback to play to his ceiling. Now, Angelo praised Belichick for his coaching job this season, as I did as well, but called New England's overall game plan, quote, misguided. Now, we don't know how far their talks with Fitzgerald went, Mike, but here's the overall philosophical question. Are the Patriots failing Tom Brady?
With all due respect to Jerry Angelo, every word he uttered is utterly ridiculous, okay?
Every word,
all the Patriots have done, we collectively overrate this idea of Tom Brady turning water into wine, because that's not the truth of the matter. Because as I've said before, Tom Brady was a better quarterback from 01, has been a better quarterback since 05 than he was from 01 to 04, and yet has no rings to show for it. But that's not for lack of trying to put a competent team around him. He'd been to 2 Super Bowls and lost. Point being this, and I looked this up earlier. Do you know that since 2002, the Patriots have drafted 13 running backs, wide receivers, or tight ends in the first 3 rounds of the draft? That's not including Aaron Hernandez in the 4th round. That's not including signing Corey Dillon in 04, or trading for Randy Moss, or signing Wes Welker, or signing Danny Amendola. Belichick did not sit up here and say, you know what, Rob Gronkowski, miss half the season with an injury. Aaron Hernandez, you go to jail. We want to make this harder on Tom Brady. We can't log them for having a complete team, contrary to what some believe about Peyton Manning, and then out of the other side of our mouth saying they're not setting Tom Brady up to succeed. You can't have it both ways. Well, they've always tried to put a great team around Tom Brady.
You can't have it both ways either, in the sense that on one end, give them, it sounds like you're kind of giving them a pass, because we hear all the time about how the Patriots, nobody's smarter in the draft than them. And you
they've had hits and misses.
A lot of misses.
A lot of them. But
exactly.
It's not for trying.
No, but
not for lack of trying.
There you go. What is it? Getting a participation trophy? Is that what it is?
Participation trophy. People are acting like they're just sending Tom Brady out there with scrubs, but they've drafted guys. They drafted Aaron Dobson in the 2nd round this year. Vereen and Ridley in the 2nd and 3rd round last year. Gronk was a 2nd round pick. When they went to tight end format, what did everybody say? Oh, we want 2 tight ends just like the Patriots have. They have tried to put Tom Brady in positions to succeed, and by and large, they have.
Well, if you read everything that Jerry Angelo said, he wasn't saying that they didn't put anybody around him. What he was saying was Denver chose to build outside in. New England chose inside out. And as a result, they took a quarterback who he considered to be the best in the game, and they limited him based on the plan.
They didn't tell Amendola to be hurt all the time. They didn't send Aaron Hernandez to jail.
Okay, you know what? This is where Bill Belichick needs to be called on the carpet. He let it get personal with Wes Welker.
Fine.
That's why he let him go.
That
didn't have nothing to do with football.
He's let a lot of people go.
Right, because
but you set up here and picked the Patriots to win the AFC title game behind that running game.
I did.
Where at the end of the season, everybody's like, oh, Brady didn't have to do as much because he's handing off to like Garrett Blunt.
It's true.
Okay, the game plan was fine then. But then when they met a better team in Denver, now they didn't set it up to succeed.
We had this conversation numerous times before. I told you, it felt like to me the Patriots window was closing because they were trying to nickel and dime their way to a championship.
Nickel and dime, and they got to the AFC title game, and you picked them to win it.
Okay, but if you have a quarterback like this, you need to give him elite weapons.
Okay, you know what the Cardinals got Larry Fitzgerald? With the 3rd overall pick in the draft. Usually you don't get Larry Fitzgerald at the bottom of the first round.
So why are they stockpiling these picks? What are they getting them?
Defensive players, offensive linemen. Let's get to the number. Why are you yelling? Why you gotta be so loud? We're supposed to have a civil discussion discussing our workload over a meal, and you're getting all worked up.
Just saying. And they got Randy Moss on the scrap heap. Look, Garrett Blunt too.
How'd that work out?
Then what happened?
Don't act like they just threw them out there with nobody. They got a really good offensive line and a defense. Come on now.
Are the Patriots failing Tom Brady?
Who came up with that question?
The numbers say yes. This season, the Patriots' cap spending on wide receivers was 29% less than the NFL average. Only 6 teams spent less on wideouts. None of them made the playoffs.
If loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right, and if that's failing, I don't want to succeed, says Tom Brady. Meanwhile, our next number of the news is the 6,645 yards Dallas allowed last season, third most in NFL history. They also allowed the second most points in franchise history, 432. But rather than fire coordinator Monty Kiffin, Jerry Jones has named him assistant head coach of defense, while Rod Marinelli was promoted to defensive coordinator. Meanwhile, Dallas named former Lions OC Scott Linehan its passing game coordinator. Linehan takes over play calling duties from Bill Callahan, who retained the offensive coordinator, offensive line coach titles. You got all that?
Trying to.
Bottom line. Do you think Jerry Jones' coaching moves help or hurt the Cowboys?
They hurt them because Jerry Jones, look, this is what I want you to do, Jerry. Just admit you were wrong. Admit you were wrong. He has all these former head coaches. This is like a rest home for ex-coaches, okay, ex-head coaches.
A rest haven for
like just fire Monty Kiffin, because that's what you really want to do, but you don't want everybody to put you on blast and say, see, why'd you hire him in the first place? He's still trying to make up for letting go of Rob Bryant. No, even beyond that, he's trying to make up for the fact that he's the general manager. He has put together this team, and a lot of this is on him. So he once again throws a plan up against the wall and says, you know what, let me bring in these ex-coaches.
You think that's what he's doing?
Yes.
He's throwing up against the wall, see what sticks?
I mean, I don't know what he's doing, because who is supposed to do what? How many cooks you going to have in the kitchen?
I'm glad you used that analogy. It's okay to have a lot of cooks in the kitchen so long as everybody buys into the recipe. As long as everybody knows their roles, it's all good.
Oh.
Rod Marinelli and Monty Kiffin, they got history together. Okay, they run their system symmetry. They run the same system. They go back to Tampa together. As long as Bill Callahan, and maybe his ego might have been bruised, but as long as they understand that Linehan is calling the plays and Garrett's the overall head coach, this can work. Go ahead and joke. How many Cowboys coaches did it take to screw in a light bulb? I get it. It looks like a circus. It looks silly. But the bottom line is this. You would have been way more upset or disappointed with Jerry Jones if he'd have stuck with the status quo a week ago.
But he's basically doing that.
No, he's not. He's making changes to try for the betterment of the team. A week ago when he was at the Senior Bowl saying everybody's under contract, no significant changes. Yeah, he lied. These are significant changes, but what did we do? We laughed at him because why would you just do what you've been doing? What's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing except in a different result. So why not change? I know there have been 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years or 3 play callers in 3 years. I know there have been 4 defensive coordinators under Jason Garrett. But you know what? At least Jerry is trying to get it right, and I give him props.
No, he's not trying to get it right because...
What's he trying to do? Just cause more chaos?
He's just trying to be right, which is different from getting it right. See, he's still trying to prove it was a good decision to put Jason Garrett in that position, and it wasn't. And he can bring in however many former coaches he wants to. That's still not going to make up for that.
Hey, Phillip Rivers last year had Mike McCoy as the head coach, Ken Whisenhunt as the OC, and Frank Wright as the quarterback coach. A lot of cooks in that kitchen. How'd it work out in San Diego? Everybody got to know their role. It's my role to press this button.
Actually, a better joke would have been, how many former coaches does it take for the Cowboys to be 8-8? Because that's where they headed.
But that doesn't have the light bulb thing.
Yeah, I know.
Better joke.
Better joke.
My jokes work.
Says you.
The Jerry Jones coaching moves help or hurt, or do they help or hurt the Cowboys? The numbers say they help, Jemele. Rod Marinelli was incredibly successful as the Bears defensive coordinator from 2010 to 2012. In those 3 years, the Bears had the most efficient defense in all of football, compiling 96 more expected points than any other defensive unit. Which reminds me, it comes down to players. Sean Lee, DeMarcus Ware, they can get healthy.
To one thing, you didn't even need a passing coordinator. Just run the football when you're supposed to.
Well, that's that too.
Now, anybody who knows Magic Johnson knows that he's one of the most gregarious, pleasant, never has a mean word to say about anybody. So to see him go in like that on Mark D'Antoni and the Lakers, you know it must be serious.
Magic is probably aware that the Lakers have allowed 100 or more points in 13 straight games, longest streak in the NBA this season. But come on, D'Antoni doesn't have any players. Let's be real about it.
How long they going to stick with this experiment? What was the excuse last year? Just remember that. Okay.
I have been making a lot of excuses for Mike D. He never gets a fair shake.
Okay.
One player particularly he doesn't have is who?
Mr. Kobe Bryant. The number in the news for the Lakers is 4. This is the 4th time in franchise history the Lakers have lost 17 games in a season during a 20-game span. Hard to see that changing with the news that Kobe will be sidelined another 3 weeks because of pain and swelling in his left knee before, of course, being re-examined again. Now, this certainly is the discussion about Kobe participating in the All-Star game, but it opens a new debate, Mike. Should Kobe just shut it down for the rest of the season?
Yeah, and I know that's against his nature and everything the Mamba stands for, but, and it's going to sound really bad to Lakers fans, but what does he have to play for this year? They just signed, against most people's conventional wisdom who don't live in California, Kobe Bryant to what, a 2-year, $50 million contract after this year? Everything about the Lakers at this point in time needs to be about this summer and the following 2 years. It needs to be about getting Kobe Bryant healthy, okay, and ready to, not just in the box office, but on the court, earn that $25 million going forward. I know it's retroactive payment for services rendered. I get all of that. But he needs to be able to go out there and perform at his best next season. And there's the bonus of getting a high draft pick. This is not really a new, or a lot of lottery balls, I should say. This isn't really a new debate, though, because we talked about this when he first got hurt. Now that he's going to be out even longer, Kobe needs to just get comfortable on that stationary bike, accept the losing, and know that it's for the greater good.
Well, it is for the greater good. It would be hard to convince a player, of course, with his competitive nature and instinct.
He ain't trying to hit it.
No, he isn't. And let's be real. I expect to see him on the court at some point this season. Like you, I believe this is the wrong move for him and the wrong move for the organization. It's not just about health. It's about another H word, which is help. And this summer, the Lakers will be free of a lot of their cap responsibilities. It'll give them an opportunity to chase Carmelo Anthony, to chase anybody else that's available.
By the way, which would ensure Magic's wish that D'Antoni would probably be.
Oh, absolutely. So he needs to push for that, although he said that, stay in New York.
Right.
Whatever. Whoever they feel like would be the best component to put aside Kobe Bryant, they need to do that. And I'm sorry, Mike, I know you've been trying to cape up for your boy Mike D'Antoni, but this experiment is officially over. They need to start fresh, new coaching philosophy. As much respect as Kobe Bryant may have for Mike D'Antoni, and I know that Jim Buss, much like Jerry Jones, he's more concerned about being right than getting it right. And so he's still trying to, as Magic said,
it's just not
fair. It is fair.
No, because Mike D'Antoni, like, even going back to New York, never truly had a consistent team to work with. And this idea that he doesn't teach defense, it's not like they forget about it. It's not his forte.
But they don't emphasize it either.
I'm not about to sit here and defend Mike D'Antoni. That's not the conversation. I will say this, though. I've kind of had this argument with myself.
Oh, how'd that go?
I don't know. We haven't resolved it yet. Okay. But if you're another player like a Carmelo Anthony or whomever who the Lakers fans have dreams and fantasies about, do you want to see Kobe perform on the court this year before deciding to go and play with him? Or do you just trust that the Mamba will be
that's actually a good point,
because
you may need to showcase him a little bit. And maybe it might be good for him, too, to knock some of the rust off and approach the offseason feeling a little bit more confident about what his physical abilities are.
That's just me playing devil's advocate with myself, which tends to cause problems. The numbers doesn't play devil's advocate. It just gives it to us straight, no chaser.
And besides, how many times are we going to make excuses for Mike D'Antoni? He doesn't work with big men well. He needs this kind of guy. Like, you're either a good coach or you're not. It's just that simple.
I think he's a good coach. I think he's been
You'll be
dealt
thinking
a tough
that by
hand.
yourself.
I'm in the minority. What's new?
Should Kobe shut it down? You say, we both say yes.
Yeah.
And the numbers agree with us as well.
All time you get the one right, Will.
Kobe returning could only potentially hurt the Lakers' chances at a top draft pick, which you mentioned, because at this point they have no shot of making the playoffs. And Laker fans, because y'all so active on Twitter, the card said that, even though I agree. Under the current playoff format since 1983, no team has ever been 10 games out of the 8th spot, which is LA, they're there right now, and made the playoffs. So, better start looking at Chad Ford's draft board, LA fans.
The number in the news for Kevin Durant is 56.8%, because 56.8% of you said on Twitter that tonight's game is a bigger deal for Kevin Durant than it is for the host, LeBron James. It's the 17th all-time meeting between these two, with LeBron holding a 13-3 edge, including the postseason. At the moment, the hot and cold Heat are just trying to find and maintain that playoff edge. So in your opinion, Jamel, for whom is tonight's game more important, Durant or LeBron?
I appreciate the perfect English there.
I try.
Very nice.
Contrary to popular opinion.
No, it's definitely more important for Kevin Durant. When you're trying to live up to a standard, and the standard has been set by LeBron James, multiple MVP winner, obviously NBA champion, that's the level you're trying to get to. So it's more incumbent on you to show why you deserve to, quite frankly, take the honor from LeBron James. I mean, we could argue And I don't want people to take this the wrong way and make it seem like this is one of those Jordan Malone deals. I view this competition a little bit differently, because I think when Michael Jordan played, there was a lot of distance between him and the next best player. I don't think there's a lot of distance between these two, but still in all, I think that Kevin Durant, that he has to take this award. And so when you have to do that, that means you have to do more. That means like coming to LeBron's house, having a great game, and I don't even care if he scores 30. Like the streak is immaterial. You win, and especially if it's on his play, then yeah, that's a case to be made.
We talked about the 13-3 head-to-head edge, and obviously they won the finals in 5 a couple of years ago.
And they won the last 6 because
we've been searching for a long time. We wanted LeBron versus Kobe to be an on-court rivalry. It wasn't. It never quite materialized that way. It's a social media and barbershop, if you will, rivalry.
And they were at 2 different stages in their career.
Is this a rivalry? Are you ready to go there?
It could become one. And I think that a lot of that is up to Kevin Durant, and that he's proven this season, he's proven that he has been the best player in the league so far. He's had a better season.
That's 2 different things. But we digress.
He's had a better season than LeBron.
Better players up for debate, better season, agreed. That's why it's more important for LeBron James. I can't believe you said it's more important for Kevin Durant.
Why? He's
when off the top we said if you come at the king, you best not miss. The king needs to defend his castle tonight against all people like you who are ready to anoint Durant because he's having the better season as the better player. It's no coincidence, and our man Brian Windhorst pointed this out on ESPN.com. He pointed out that LeBron's last 10 games, which kind of coincide with Durant's hot streak, he's averaged 28.4 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists on the Loto, okay? He's stepping his game up because he's motivated by the fact that people are out there saying, oh, Kevin Durant's the MVP. When LeBron's like, wait a second, I'm playing a career low minutes. Wait a second, I'm shooting 3.3 shots fewer per game than Kevin Durant. So I guarantee you, LeBron is sitting there saying, yo, I'm about to show out tonight because y'all must have forgotten that I was a Defensive Player of the Year runner-up last year. So I want the challenge, with some help from my teammates, of shutting down the Durantula, KD, Slim Reaper, whatever you want to call it.
Well, personal motivation, especially when you're trying to drag your team to a 3rd NBA Finals, or 4th rather.
Screaming as a kid.
You need, yes, from that standpoint, LeBron needs the motivation. But if the Heat win tonight, nobody's going to be saying that, oh, you know, LeBron really proved something. Everybody's going to say, well, Kevin Durant's not ready.
Well, even from a team standpoint, forget the individual point of view. From a team standpoint, Miami's got to flip that switch sooner rather than later. And their defense has been atrocious. What better way to get your defense right than to come out and make a statement against the hottest team?
I don't remember their exact record, but I believe they've been pretty successful against Western Conference teams.
Winning teams. Their struggles have been against below 500 teams.
The lesser teams.
So like 9 or 10 losses against below 500 teams.
Right.
LeBron trying to make history, man. Y'all trying to make him history.
He's already made a history. We know nobody's saying his time is over.
Sound like it.
Is tonight's game more important for Durant or LeBron? The numbers say Durant, because he needs to prove he can beat the king head-to-head. KD and LeBron have been on the court together for 354 minutes in the past 2 seasons, including the playoffs. In that time, OKC has been outscored by 69 points. Will, thanks for this little addendum. I did the math. That's more than 9 points per 48 minutes.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
The
The number in the news for Richard Sherman is 18. By our count, there were 18 cameras pictured in this photo of the media scrum that Richard Sherman tweeted yesterday. After Sherman went scorched earth after the NFC title game, many expected, including myself, him to go nuclear again this week. Instead, he was more like a wet firework.
I think people think, I'm just a loudmouth, angry guy who just calls people out, and I think that's the biggest misconception. I think if people really took the time to get to know me and learn about me, that they'd understand it's more to me than that rant.
Bravo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was he talking? Oh, my bad. I dozed off. I was personally disappointed in his media day performance. And for that matter, with all of his interviews, I expected more from Richard Sherman.
I'm disappointed in you for being disappointed. What did you expect from him this week exactly?
I expected him to be more of himself. Like you even...
He wasn't?
Well, this is the thing. I feel
duality, Jamel. It's that duality.
I feel like when Pete Carroll, after he had that talk with Richard Sherman following the NFC title game, basically, I'm sure telling him to tone it down a little bit. But I think that it took away a little bit of his swagger. I mean, to me, be who you always are. You even said yourself that he needs that swagger, that chip, in order to play that position, in order to be that personality.
On the field, but we know he's a multifaceted, very complex, very versatile individual off the field. I thought those qualities shone or shine, whatever the proper word. I thought those were clear. Okay, this week in front of the national media.
Of course, I mean he was, intelligent and all that kind of thing. But Richard Sherman, he has a lot of facets to his personality. I'm not suggesting that he should have gone WWE style.
Sounds like it. Would you know? Because if he would have made it about himself and been loud and this, that, and the other, you'd have been sitting there saying, there he goes, taking away the attention from his teammates again. I thought he handled himself extremely well. He's very cooperative, including when somebody asked him, what do we do about the national epidemic of making it rain in the strip clubs? My man tried the best he could to give the most articulate, intelligent answer on one of the most ridiculous questions we've heard in quite a long time.
See,
props to Richard Sherman.
That is that's a softball. All right, that's put on a tee for you. Richard Sherman.
He could have just been like, next question. That's probably what I would have done.
I probably would have said that, but I think it's okay for, he's funny. He's a lot of things. He's not just angry. And I guess I was expecting more personality, and he came in a little too corporate. This is not the Richard Sherman I'm used to seeing. He should have never apologized to Michael Crabtree. If you don't like the guy, there's no rule that says you have to like Michael Crabtree. If you think he's mediocre, then just say, he's clearly said it, then just stick by that. I don't even get why he apologized for that. I understand why he apologized for taking the attention away from his team, but
you want him to just own it.
I'm just own it, right? I'm saying just tell the truth.
At least he wasn't Marshawn Lynch, who, by the way, I think it's a major overblown deal. Even speaking as a media member and a former pro football writer myself, I think it's as overblown as I did. He's not accessible or not cooperative. I don't think he needs to be. If he's not going to give me anything, today was painful. Watching him sit up there because he was forced to, that was painful. So 6 minutes and 21 seconds, I don't need any more of that.
Okay, but real quick, and I know we have to get to the number.
I'll press the button while you go. Go ahead.
Here's my problem with that, though, is I understand him not talking or him being a little skittish in front of the media. But I think today he was unprofessional. There's a very fine line.
No, there is.
He doesn't have to stay there 30 minutes.
We do have a
he's
job.
He's climbing over table. Come on, dude.
We do have a job to do. But we don't need Marshawn Lynch to do our job.
No, we don't. But he needs to, for his personal brand, he needs to act better.
Skittles doesn't mind. Were you disappointed in Richard Sherman's media day performance as Jemele was? The numbers were not disappointed, Jemele. Sherman started his session 10 minutes early, drew the largest crowd of the day, answered every question asked of him, and stayed late to answer more. What more do you want from the man? That's on the card.
Championship.
The numbers are like, why you bugging? What do women want? All right, meanwhile, the number in the news for Joe Montana is 4. That's a number that needs no explanation. Montana and Terry Bradshaw are the only QBs in NFL history to go 4 for 4 in the Super Bowl. It's for that reason that many rank Montana as the GOAT. Montana told Mike and Mike this morning that there should be a little more to it than that when it comes to those conversations.
A lot of people say that's the measuring stick, and that's a start of it, I believe. Because most of those guys you see are going to be winners, and they'll have won a lot of games. But there were great players, not only in the quarterback position, but in all positions that never made it to that game. And one comes to my mind, that's Danny Marino. I don't think there was a guy that threw the ball any better than Danny.
Word is bond. See? Told you. Even your idol, Joe Montana, agrees with me, I think. But he's basically agreeing with me when I've been telling you rings are very much overrated when it comes to ranking the all-time great QBs.
This is with all due respect to my favorite quarterback of all time. All due respect to an athlete. It's a very short list of athletes who I've always looked up to, and he's one. It's real easy to say that when you have 4 rings. I'd like to hear from Dan Marino if he thinks rings are overrated, because I'm just guessing he doesn't. I'm guessing he would trade some of those passing records for some of Montana's ring, or even one of them. That's like me saying, you know what's overrated? Being on television every day is overrated. Yeah, it's easy for me to say because I'm on TV every day. I wouldn't say that, so don't anybody out there get any ideas. But when you have it, yeah, you can say that. I don't know if he would feel the same if he didn't. What if he were Jim Kelly? You think Jim Kelly thinks rings are overrated? No, probably not.
That's not the point. The point that I've been trying to get across, and I thought you understood, was that rings are not the end-all, be-all to the conversation about the greatness of an individual player in team sports, specifically quarterbacks, okay? That's like I said earlier. I'll repeat it till I'm blue in the face. Tom Brady has been better since 05 than he was from 01 to 04, and yet has no rings. There are plenty of players who have rings, lots of them, who are inferior to players who do not. We completely overvalue it. And the reason I'm so fired up to talk about this is for all those people who are like, well, how can you not have Tom Brady as the greatest of all time? How can you have Dan Marino on your top 5 list? How can you talk about Steve Young and this, that, and the other? If it were all about rings, why don't more people put Bradshaw as number 1? If it's about rings, it's Bradshaw, Montana, Troy Aikman's got 3. But yet, to me, we pick and choose when we want to elevate rings in the conversation. It's too easy. To me, it's low-hanging fruit because there are too many circumstances and things that have to break right in order for a quarterback to achieve rings. And I applaud Joe Montana for recognizing that, you know what? Dan Marino was probably a better passer than me. That's what Joe Montana's really saying. But I had better teams.
You know, this is when I want to channel my inner Herm Edwards and say, why do we play the game? Thank you.
Okay, fine. We play the game. Not I play the game. We play the game.
But so you mean to tell me when Joe Montana, when he was thinking about what he wanted his NFL career to look like, it was absent of championships?
But it helped that he was with Bill Walsh and had Jerry Rice and so on and so forth.
No, I'm not saying that circumstances.
That's all I'm talking about. It's like we overrate them.
No, we don't overrate them because they're important.
I'm not saying they're not important.
Why are you playing if you're not playing to win?
You're emphasizing the importance of them. They're not the end all and be all. The list is too long of great players whose teams did not win championships. And I refuse to allow people to let rings be the end all be all when it comes to rating
rings
people.
Can settle debates.
That's why Marino said no, it doesn't settle it. The numbers settle it, but it does not settle the debate. Rings do not. Really? You miss me with like, oh, this guy was better than this guy because he's got more championship rings. That's lazy.
I wouldn't make it lazy. That simple.
Well, people do, which is why it's overrated, in my opinion.
Yeah, you tell that to somebody who doesn't have one.
Are rings overrated for ranking quarterbacks? There you go. Marinate on that.
The numbers say yes.
Mm-hmm.
The QB with the highest total QBR in a given season hasn't won the Super Bowl since Peyton himself did it in 2006. Since then, Super Bowl winning quarterbacks have had an average QBR rank of 14th in the regular season. Shout out to Joe Flacco, who was 24th last year.
Did the numbers give a real shout out?
It did. I tell you what. Ask how many people will remember somebody's total QBR at the end of the season.
Jim Plunkett got 2 rings. Steve Young got 1.
They will remember who won.
Who's better between Steve Young and Jim Plunkett? All right, you know what time it is. It is time for some numbers that you need to know. Before we get to the numbers, you need to listen to what Jonathan Martin had to say on the Today Show. I'm a grown man. I've been in locker rooms. There's vulgar language used in locker rooms. One instance doesn't bother me. It's the persistence of it. I wish I would have had more tools to solve my situation, but I felt trapped, like I didn't have a way to make it right. Came down to the point where, I thought it was best just to remove myself from the situation. Obviously, Jonathan Martin talking to Coach Dungy. What are your thoughts about what you heard from Jonathan so far?
I know this isn't necessarily what we're supposed to do on the show, but there's part of me that wants to reserve complete judgment until I hear the full interview, which will apparently will air tonight. I still don't know what to make of this situation. Don't know anything more than I knew a few months ago. But
we're just hearing from him.
We're just hearing from him, and I like. And supposedly Tony Dungy has said that he's seen and heard seen the texts, heard the voicemails, and he agreed that it was over the top.
Coach Dungy also said that he spoke with 3 GMs who believe that Martin will have a chance to play again. I'd be curious if those 3 teams want Martin to play for their teams.
Interesting. All right, the number in the news for Northwestern is 30% because 30% of their football players will need to sign union cards as they seek to create a union that is recognized by the National Labor Relations Board. NFLPA Executive Director DeMarie Smith says the players make a great case. What do you think of this?
I'm all in for this. I'm united with the players in this case. You know what I love? How they've taken the rhetoric that's often used against the calls for more pay for players and use it to justify what they're doing. People often say, why are we going to pay players salaries? They get paid with an education. These players are saying, okay, we're paid with an education. Now we want the benefits of employees. We want health protection. We want our scholarships guaranteed. We want long-term insurance that we can actually complete our degrees. I love everything about this. It's a huge step in this direction.
Yeah,
right direction.
I would agree with that.
All right, the number you need to know for Johnny Manziel is 2 because according to Nesson, He's agreed to join up with Fenway Sports Management for marketing, making that the second marketing company he's tied to because he's also with LeBron's LR/MR Management. I think LeBron, if I'm not mistaken, has a deal with the Red Sox ownership in terms of Fenway Management as well. Is this doing too much?
All right, so 2 marketing companies. Yes, it is doing too much. Johnny needs to focus on being an NFL quarterback, making himself ready for the draft. He's already worried, or it seems like anyway, he's already kind of putting the horse before the cart, if you will.
Cart before the horse. I know what you mean. Nonetheless, what we are trying to do here is diversify our portfolio.
Oh, goodness.
My son is wise.
The number for Michael Strahan is 141.5 because that's how many sacks he had, 5th most since they became an official stat. But despite that, Warren Sapp, he doesn't think he's a Hall of Famer. He was throwing some blows, some verbal blows at Michael Strahan.
Yeah, with all due respect to QB Killer, I have no idea what's going on here. This seems more
it seems
personal.
like it's a deeper story.
This is personal. This is not about production because you mentioned 141.5 sacks. Strahan, 7-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro. Sapp, 7-time Pro Bowler, 4-time first-team All-Pro. Not to mention, Strahan did his work from the left defensive end spot, which traditionally is not reserved for the pass rusher. He was a two-way defender, one of the better two-way defenders at left end that I've ever seen. Obviously, the standard is Reggie White, and now you got Michael Strahan getting 141 from the left end spot. This seems more personal.
Well, they've been sniping at each other back and forth, and it just seemed rather personal. Speaking of personal, man, Atlanta people took it very personal because I tweeted, they're going through a snowstorm. And I said, man, y'all handle Freaknik better than this. No, I was talking about your city officials, not you.